Welcome to Discovering. Tonight we explore the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore and see what it's like to hike the entire 42-mile stretch.
The cliffs are what a lot of people come for, but really the whole 42 miles of park shoreline have something special.
So sit back and relax. It's Monday night and it's time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
The Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore is one of the most, if not the most, iconic landscapes of the Upper Peninsula. The towering, multicolored sandstone cliffs and sparkling turquoise waters of Lake Superior are plastered across postcards, Instagram reels, and Pure Michigan campaigns. I had seen the place only a couple times. Once from the boat tour about 15 years ago, and last winter during the Michigan Ice Fest. I thought seeing it from the boat tour was enough. I was wrong. The rugged and wild beauty from the trail that runs along the coast, the panoramic views of the 200-foot cliffs from the top, and Lake Superior as far as the eye can see, are worth packing a week's worth of food and shelter on your back and hoofing it from one end of the park to the other.
The cliffs are what a lot of people come for, but really the whole 42 miles of park shoreline have something special.
The Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore spans approximately 42 miles from Grand Marais to Munising. 15 miles of that are the cliffs. The rest is beaches, sand dunes, and dense forests. It's a very narrow park, only about 35,000 acres along that 42-mile stretch.
Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore was established in 1966. It was the very first national lakeshore. It was a period in the National Park Service where they were expanding into more urban areas and adding different types of parks to attract different audiences.
The more popular attractions of the park are Miners Castle, Miners Beach, Chapel Rock, Log Slide, and the many waterfalls. There are 17 campgrounds in the park. There are 3 standard drive-in campgrounds, and there are 14 backcountry sites for hikers. You do need to reserve sites in advance, even the backcountry sites, and they fill up fast. The backcountry campgrounds have very few sites within them. My week-long adventure team is the same group of ladies from Isle Royal last year: Elizabeth Peterson, Cindy Baker, and Teal Rintala. Our itinerary was to hike from east to west in 5 days. Day 1, hike 8.7 miles from the Grand Sauble Visitor Center to Hurricane River. Day 2, hike 9.3 miles to Trappers Lake. Day 3, hike 8 miles to Chapel Beach. Day 4, hike 11.3 miles to Cliffs. And Day 5, 5 miles out to the Visitor Center at Munising Falls. We started our adventure, the same as we always do, in the rain.
When you're hiking east to west, one of the neatest places to me are the Grand Sauble Dunes. The Grand Sauble Dunes are perched dune systems, so they're a dune system. The sand is built up over the cliffs in this area, and these are one of the best preserved dune systems in the whole world, perched dune systems. It's also the highest feature in the park, over 300 feet above Lake Superior, about 500 feet on a slope down. to the water, so you'll see that. You'll be walking at the base of it for some of it, and then you'll be up near the top of it and walking along the edge. So it's one of my favorite places in the park.
Sadly, it was too foggy on day one for us to get a good view of the sand dunes, and my tired legs were too lazy to climb up the log slide.
We do have lots of maritime history, so as you walk by and walk through the Au Light Station, the lighthouse was built there for a reason, and that was to help the ships going along Lake Superior. The shipping used to hug the shoreline, which was fine until they got to Au Point, where there's a 2-mile rock reef going out. So before radar and all those things, they would hug the cliffs, and that's how they'd find their way along the shoreline. But when they hit Au Point, they'd run aground and break up. But it's really cool to see the reef out there and just kind of imagine, one, living out there, but then also having a shipwreck or ships go by.
We were there a week before tour season, so it was a ghost town. We made it to Hurricane River Campground, one of the drive-in campgrounds where we had our own fire ring to make a nice fire, but we were too tired to enjoy it. Day 2 was another cloudy, misty, cool day as we hiked from Hurricane River to Trappers Lake. One good thing about the cold and the breeze, it keeps the bugs down.
The next section is 12 miles of beach. It's called 12 Mile Beach, so it's nice sandy area, though you don't have to walk on the beach.
12 Mile Beach is also nicknamed Shipwreck Coast. There are actually 45 shipwrecks along the Pictured Rocks coast. One of the contributors to all these shipwrecks is the dense fog like today that can form quickly and disorient ships who then run aground on the coast. We passed by the car. According to online forums, this is a 1941 Plymouth that was abandoned out here probably long before it was a national park. 3/4 through the day's hike, the sun finally popped out. You have to love the UP weather mood swings here. We finally made it to Trappers Lake.
It's sunny.
Yeah,
I'll like it.
I'll take it. Backcountry campgrounds have a community fire pit surrounded by a half dozen or so sites. Those campgrounds that do allow fires, not all do. Other campground amenities include a community bear box to store your food and an open-air toilet. So you're only kind of roughing it. This campground was sunny and pretty and made me long for my fishing pole. 5 stars, I would overnight here again. On day 3, the sights got better. We were getting closer to the sandstone cliffs. We took 5 at Beaver Creek. There's a beautiful sandy beach here.
And then you hit the Beaver Basin Wilderness, which is really nice. It's a designated wilderness, which means we limit the man-made structures or try to remove a lot of man-made structures. There are some trails in there and some bridges over the creek, but it's a really pretty place.
We crossed the Beaver Creek Bridge. Sturdy, yet difficult to walk across gracefully, it's a beautiful bridge, and I appreciate the rusticness and how it blends into the wilderness around it. One downfall of seeing the Pictured Rocks from above is you don't get to see the waterfalls, since you're on top of them.
There are a number of waterfalls. How many you'll see walking along the edge? Some, when you get to the cliffs, will be going right over the edges. You'll see the water going over, but you're really going to have a hard time viewing. But Spray Falls, you will see that. You'll probably hear it first, and you will be able to see it from the hike. It is most people only can see it from the water because it is a difficult hike to get to.
One of my few regrets is I didn't step out onto this spot to see Spray Falls, which I realized too late. We made it to Chapel Rock late in the afternoon.
Chapel Rock is a really neat erosion-formed rock, but it also has this white pine tree on top that manages to survive because its taproot goes to the mainland. The rock used to be connected to the mainland where the tree root was growing toward, and then it eroded away and just left this nice thick root that's keeping the tree alive.
There is a waterfall next to the rock formation that looks fun to play in on a warmer day. There is a large beach where you can watch the tour boats sail back and forth. Most visitors access this site from a parking lot that is about 3.5 miles from Chapel Beach. This adventure was early in the season, so we practically had the place to ourselves. So my goal with this story is to show you what this place looks like if you are unable to get out here, and give you a glimpse of the adventure you could have if you can get out here. To show you this natural gem we have here in the UP. One thing I did not expect to show you was how incredibly difficult this task could end up being. Behind these beautiful videos of foggy beaches, wild forests, and sandstone vistas are blistered toes, injured ankles, and 4 exhausted women.
We're at the Red Roof Inn tonight, ladies.
The trail seems flat, and it's advertised as being pretty flat, but it's really not. There's a constant up and down with a constantly changing terrain under your feet. Lots of sand. There weren't any big hills, but there were some short, steep climbs. Along the coast, most of the time, the trail is tucked into the woods, away from the edge. And there are times you are hiking right on the edge, and it's a good idea to pay close attention to your footing.
A little don't want to look down.
A decision was made to get a ride from the Chapel Beach parking lot to Miners Castle and shorten the mileage. The first 2 days I was exhausted, and my shoulders aching at the end of the hikes.
Half a mile.
But by day 3, I wasn't feeling too bad. My body had gotten used to the weight of the pack. I wasn't blistered or broken, so I made the decision to hike day 4 solo. I would have regretted not doing the entire stretch if I knew I was physically capable of doing it. Or I'm just a stubborn Finlander. I felt bad leaving the group, especially when I realized halfway down the trail that Teal would probably not be coming back out. And she didn't. I can't blame her. If my toes looked like that, and I was in a car, I wouldn't be getting out of that car either. Teal hiked the last 20 miles in her Crocs because her toes were too blistered to put her boots on. It should be noted that Teal also hiked Grand Island for a couple days before joining our party. Day 4. The longest hike day, and the one I was most looking forward to the views of the cliffs. The sandstone cliffs rise 50 to 200 feet above Lake Superior.
Basically, the water seeps through the sandstone, the groundwater, and leaches out the minerals, so it gives it a nice painted look. So streaks of black, streaks of white, streaks of orange, red, even some blue from blue-green from copper. And it can change, which is really cool. So you get a nice rainy period, a lot more colors can pop out. Things dry out, other colors are more visible. And then how the light hits it makes it really fantastic. So just seeing the different changes on the cliffs. The sandstone, there's harder levels of sandstone. So you see some hard cap rock, and then it erodes underneath it. So you really get some neat patterns on that. The erosion, it's wind, it's water. Lake Superior is a big creator of our shoreline. The waves and wind push water, push air. And then in winter, the ice adds its own force to everything. And then in spring, the snow is melting, it's seeping through, and then it freezes at night, and then it expands. So it's just causing sometimes those cliff collapses. Just the geology is really cool.
Cindy and Elizabeth joined me on day 4's hike up to Grand Portal Point, one of the coolest spots along the trail. Then I was on my own for the next 10.5 miles. One tip, make sure to turn around and look back to see the sights from that direction and to see how far you've gone and feel that accomplishment, instead of how far you still have to go. The Miners Castle Visitor Center area was under construction, so there was no water available there. And that was the last water before the Cliffs campsite, which there is no water at that campsite. Make sure to pay attention to what sites have water and what sites don't when planning your own hike. Being paranoid that I wouldn't have water, I filled up all my containers at Mosquito River. Down trail, I realized there were many more places to fill up instead, like Miners Beach. I could have carried a few less liters, a few less miles, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
That's a mosquito. I'm at Potato Patch. I got 4 miles to go to Cliffs, 2 miles to Miners Castle. It's 2 o'clock. Should be doing all right for time.
Miners Beach is one of those spots where all of a sudden you pop out into civilization.
Where were you a mile ago?
Here you are, stinky and dirty, eating jerky and Cliff Bars, and there's people picnicking and kayaking and strolling down the trails. I spent close to an hour at Miners Beach, relaxing in the sun, eating lunch, and exploring. The west end of Miners Beach is approximately 1 mile from Miners Castle, and probably one of the more rugged parts of the trail. Miners Castle is one of the most famous landmarks in the park. Erosion from wind, water, and ice over long periods of time has created the unique rock formations that give this place its name. And erosion is still changing the formation. Miners Castle once had 2 turrets until one fell into the lake in 2006, dramatically altering the look of Miners Castle. I wonder when the other turret falls in, what they will call this place. The rock formerly known as Miners Castle? Will it have the same attraction to tourists? Thoughts to ponder down the trail. After Miners Castle, I had about 2 more miles to Cliffs. Spending almost an entire day hiking alone had made me a bit goofy. Or maybe it was the Skittles sugar buzz. I wrote notes in the trail for Cindy and Elizabeth to see as they hiked behind me. I played in the mud. I could tell by the lack of human tracks heading west in this now muddy trail that they had not gotten ahead of me. And I talked to the ferns. The Cliffs campsite, like other backcountry sites, is not right on the main trail, rather a 1/4 mile uphill through the ferns and into the secluded woods. An hour later, Cindy and Elizabeth joined me at Cliffs, all of us relieved to see each other for one last night in the park. The next morning, we hiked out the last 5 miles. I was ready to be done. Ready for some real food and a hot shower. There are no cliff views along this stretch. The woods are pretty and peaceful. We passed over the top of many waterfalls, but were unable to see most of them. I didn't film much the last day. I was tired. The entire journey was probably much more than 42 miles, hiking in and out of campsites that were up to a 1/2 mile off the main trail, walking back and forth to the privies that were tucked into the woods, venturing along the beaches, and checking out the scenic overlooks. My plan was to shoot less video and spend more time taking mental photos and enjoying the experience and make it more of a vacation. Who am I kidding? I can't enjoy the experience unless I capture it on video. If I didn't get it on camera, it didn't happen. My camera is pretty much an extension of my right arm. I can't help it. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of the trail along the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. I hope it inspires you to get out and see the beauty around us. I really do enjoy showing off this wonderful place we call home. More and more people are now visiting our great state and especially our parks. The Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore saw 1.3 million visitors in 2021. That's over double from just a handful of years ago. With this many people, it's important more than ever to respect the land and the wildlife. Follow the principles of leave no trace. Stay on the trails. And be patient with park staff as they help navigate this new season of outdoor enthusiasts with limited parking and resources.
For a skinny little park, it gets a lot of people, and where we can do things are really limited. We don't have a whole lot of room in there. And we don't want to pave paradise just to make more parking or more campgrounds.
We were here early in the season, so we saw relatively few people on the trail or backcountry campgrounds. We didn't see a single person the first day until we got to the campground. So, if you like cool weather, less bugs, and less people, early June is an ideal time to see the Pictured Rocks from the trail. That's all for tonight, and I hope to see you right back here next week for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.